Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tuesday's Take 5, where we take 5 minutes to walk through some words of wisdom from the book of James that I think can apply to our lives right where we're living, right where we're working. And we're just going to continue on what we did yesterday. James began his talk about the danger of our tongues. And I took 5 minutes to do one verse. Sorry about that. We're going to pick up the pace a little bit, but he pretty much describes the danger of our tongues in 3 ways. Yesterday we looked at how, like a fire, how destructive it is. Today we're going to look at how uncontrollable it is, you can't tame it, and how contradictory it is, and just how that looks. So take a moment, think about the words that you've said in the last 24 hours. Think about the attractiveness of your conversation. And let's talk about the tongue and how our tongues can be used for some really, really good things if we choose it. Yesterday I began talking about listening to my granddaughter, and she had a great first day at school. It was good to hear. I'm going to talk about her again because the passage that I'm about to read reminds me that one of her favorite places to go, and I love going with her family, is to the zoo. And you know, when you go to the zoo and you see the hippopotamuses and the lions and the tigers, and it's a cool thing. But one of the things that you realize is they've tamed these things, sort of. The lions and the giraffes and these wild animals, and yet the zookeeper is there and he's able to tame them. And I say that because that's going to be James's point. You can tame wild animals, but without the power of the Holy Spirit in a person's life, you cannot tame this tongue. Well, here's what he says. Every kind of beast, I'm in James 3, verse 7. Every kind of beast and bird, of reptile and sea creature can be tamed and has been tamed by mankind. Verse 8, here's the opposite. But no human being can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil full of deadly poison. No human being can tame the tongue. It's untamable. He's going to the extreme, but we sort of know that that's true, right? And someone tells you a secret and says, please don't tell anybody this, but here's an issue that I'm dealing with. And what's the first thing your tongue wants to do? That person's barely out of sight. And the temptation is to, let's tell 7 people. Or maybe at work, you hear an off-color joke and you think, that's awful. And yet you can't tame the tongue without repeating it for 5 people. The tongue is really hard to tame. On a regular basis, I've taken groups of people on retreats. They're called silent retreats, where we've gone 24, 36, sometimes 48 hours, where you don't say a word. It's total silence. They're profound. I hope to be doing one early next year. The thing that you find is, it is the hardest thing not to talk. To be able to have the discipline to not speak at all. And that's what it is. It's a discipline. James's point is, this tongue, this tool that God has given us, is almost untamable. And yet, I would say, through the power of the Holy Spirit, through the control of the Holy Spirit, watch how the discipline of our tongues can change from vile speech to gracious speech, from over talking to not talking, from always talking about myself as the center of the universe to wanting to talk about you and asking how you're doing. That's the power of the Holy Spirit. Throughout the book of Acts, there's this phrase, and it goes like this, and they were filled with the Holy Spirit, and they said, now sometimes they spoke other languages, but sometimes it's just talking about the gospel and talking about grace. Know this, the tongue that you have, the tongues that I have, in my own strength, totally uncontrollable. But through the control and the power of the Holy Spirit, our tongues can be controlled and can actually bring forth words of grace and love and joy and peace and patience. We only did 2 verses this time, but we're in a section about the danger of the tongue. Yesterday, it can be destructive. Today, it cannot be controlled, except, and pray this with me, Holy Spirit, control my tongue. Let my words be your words, words of grace. I think through the power of the Holy Spirit, our tongues can be controlled by the grace of God. Tomorrow we'll go through the third danger of the tongue, and that is it's ugly. It contradicts itself. But that's tomorrow for Wednesday. I'll see you then. Take care.